Hey guys, it's Will and Mike.
Hello.
Welcome to First Watch. So this is a show in which we basically kind of react to movies that we've just watched. It's not really a review. It's not really a reaction, obviously, because it's not in real time. Somewhere in between those two things. Today we're going to be talking about Nemesis. This movie came out in 1992. It's like a B movie, action, sci-fi, kind of grindhousey. It's directed by the same guy who did Cyborg with Van Damme. Have you seen that? This is also a movie that takes place in the future and is about kind of the marriage of humans and technology, and it kind of asks questions about what it means to be human when you start combining the human body and mind with technology. It's directed by Albert Pune, was his name, if I forgot to say it. Yep. And then here we have the MVD Rewind collection. So they also did an edition of Cyborg, which is super cool, which you should check out. And this has 3 different cuts of the movie on it. So the Japanese cut is on here, the original cut that was released, and then the director's cut, and then you can watch it in 235 to 1, and I think 185 to 1?
Yeah, I think so.
So a couple different aspect ratios too, depending on what you want to check out there. So what are your thoughts on this movie?
So, I'm glad you brought up Cyborg because it felt a lot like that kind of a movie. Some of the similar ideas as like a RoboCop, even a little bit. Not as good as RoboCop, but some of the same ideas.
Well, what is as good as RoboCop, though? Come on.
Where basically it's in the future and humans are becoming more and more machine-like because you have an injury, you break an arm, they might replace it with like mechanical.
And you can't
arms.
tell. One of the interesting things about it, I thought, was you can't tell who is a cyborg and who isn't. And
I think they mentioned the main character at one point was like 87% cyborg. So like, what does that mean? Is he still a human? Is he not? That kind of stuff. So some interesting ideas behind it. It was Olivier Gruner.
Right? This guy here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it was only his second film ever, right?
And he's French.
Yeah, and they were trying to package him as an action star, kind of similar to Jean-Claude Van Damme, because he actually kind of sounds like him a little bit.
And Van Damme was in Cyborg, same director, right?
So they were trying to package him. He's not the greatest actor. He's not a greatest actor in the world. He's better at the action scenes than
He has a good screen presence.
He has a good presence, and I think for a movie like this, that's.
But also,
more important.
he's doing it. He's doing a movie in his second language, and it's only his second movie, so he's got a lot of obstacles.
So that's like we all love Arnold Schwarzenegger, but like look at the Terminator, which was not his. It was like his 3rd or 4th film, and he has like 4 lines in it. There's a reason for that. He can't talk, right? So as for the movie itself, it was really fun. You could tell that they were working on a budget, but actually, surprisingly, the first third of the movie or so deals with him going after these terrorists and him like coming to terms with who he is and recovering. The next 2/3 of the movie, he actually goes overseas, and there's a ton of action scenes there, and it's like a bunch of chase scenes, and there's explosions and gunfighting. That stuff's really cool. That's when I think the film got really interesting, really exciting. For lovers of really cheap and cheesy B movies, there's some really funny CGI effects that are really bad. Really, really bad.
I'm almost wondering if... So we watched the original cut that was released. We have yet to watch the Japanese cut or the director's cut, which hopefully we will at some point. We'll come back and talk to you about those. But I'm wondering if that's what was removed from the director's cut.
I mean,
it's like Clash of the Titans. Like it looks like like a claymation 60s movie. All of a sudden, after looking like an early 90s sci-fi movie.
I wonder if they just blew through their budget, getting the best shots they could, doing as many explosions and fun scenes they could, and then they got to the post-production part, and then they're like, we don't have any money. Whatever, just like, let's do something. And like, who doesn't care? Although I will say some directors in this genre and in the B films, they do like that sort of cheap CGI look, and I've read even interviews of some directors who actually prefer, they'll get something back and they'll be like, take it back. It's too realistic. It's too good. This isn't The Matrix. This isn't RoboCop. This is supposed to be a fun B movie. It doesn't matter that the CGI is not very good. That's not the point of the film.
Or is it even CGI? I mean, 1992.
I don't know what that thing was.
Claymation.
We're both talking about a scene where
there's this thing that's almost like Terminator at the end.
The whole skin
it's like
gets
an
melted
exoskeleton,
off, and he's like chasing him,
and it's hanging off an airplane.
And I think it was
this is not a spoiler alert. It's not a spoiler.
I think it was done better in Terminator, which is like 8 years before. But
Terminator probably had a much bigger budget. Too.
Yeah.
But,
although the first one had a very low budget.
But it had a budget in the million.
More than this, yes. So I don't know. I mean, I'd recommend the movie. It's there's way worse films coming out.
The thing about this that I liked was that some of it really is just super corny, cheesy, and fun because of how corny and cheesy it is. And some of it is genuinely really good. Like, the action scenes are really good. And the shootouts, and this was obviously influenced by John Woo. And as you can see by my shirt, I'm a huge fan of John Woo. And I would also say that this is very clearly a predecessor to The Matrix, in that the ideas that it introduces about not being able to tell the difference between who's real and who isn't, and what does it mean to be human. And you have these characters who walk around with sunglasses on and like the long coats and kind of similar, and obviously John Woo did that too. So it's a continuum. But the opening scene, in the hotel, in the very beginning, that reminded me a lot of The Matrix. The way it's shot, the way the camera moves. And again, this may just be that they're both influenced by John Woo. But there are a couple shootout scenes in particular here that I really would be surprised if the Wachowskis did not watch before they made The Matrix. Like, there's a scene where he shoots that hole in the floor and is falling down through the floor. Super, super cool shootout. So I loved that about it. The action is awesome. And the acting is cheesy, but that's part of the fun for me. Yeah. And so I would say that the fact that the action is so good and that some of the movie is really well done is a bonus, because I think typically someone would reach for a movie like this to enjoy a corny B movie.
With friends.
And then it's actually not bad. It's like a genuinely good movie in parts.
Yeah, I mean, you'd want to watch this with friends. You want to have a drink. You want to make a fun night of it. And I mean, I imagine
if you're like sad and someone just broke up with you and you're home alone,
might not be
this is probably not what you're going to watch.
But, I imagine like a big Hollywood blockbuster film has months and months of shooting, and it's like, oh, we didn't get the shot. All right, let's add 2 more months. He had
7 weeks?
7 weeks, and I'm sure they couldn't go over even a day, right?
So we watched an interview with the director,
and he seems like a really likable guy.
He seems super cool, and he was saying that 7 weeks, but they shot numerous locations.
Yeah, a lot of locations.
So he said that like half the time that they were shooting, they were traveling. So it's like
it's hard. Yeah. So sometimes you get the acting, and you don't have time to do 3, 4, 5, 6 takes. You just get one, and you're like,
and he said with the shootouts, he said they only had money for one take.
Yeah, there's scenes where there's some explosions, and they're like, we could only blow it up once. So it's like,
what do you know?
Hopefully it turns out. But it was clear he has a passion for filmmaking. I'm talking about the director. Put a lot of hard work into it,
and intentionally did. This is something else that I think is interesting that. I think people often misconceive when they're kind of on the outside looking in, is that he intentionally made really low budget movies because he wanted to have creative freedom.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be able to express himself in ways there weren't pressure from like 1,000 people because people were putting $200 million or whatever into it. Like, he really only had his 2 producers telling him what to do.
Yeah, try doing that with the Marvel film now. You have about 50 people telling you what to do.
And also, fun fact, it says written by Rebecca Chandler, but that's actually a pseudonym of the director.
Yeah,
because he directed so many movies that he was also writing that the producers were worried of an oversaturation of his name in like the low budget movie market, basically. So they forced him to write under a pseudonym. Yeah,
it's amazing.
But so we'll put links in the description of this video if you are on YouTube, and if you're on Facebook, we'll put a comment where you can just scroll down and look, and there will be links to where you can buy this, see trailers, all that fun stuff, and follow us on Instagram, and
I'm sure we'll
subscribe
have some pictures up. Yes,
if you made it this far, and give us a thumbs up. Tell us what you think. Comment if you've seen this movie, and we'll see you next time.
All right, adios.